What if I told you that this app, and this app were all built without writing a single line of code? That's right, the founders of these apps use drag and drop builders called no-code tools to get their ideas into the iOS and Android store. And so in today's video, I'm gonna be breaking down the 6 best no-code app builders, and make sure to stick around to the end because I'm gonna be helping you decide which one's the best for your project. And because we have lots to cover, let's jump right into the first tool, which is called Flutter Flow. The first tool we're gonna be talking about today is a tool that's been gaining a lot of momentum over the past 12 months. It's a drag and drop builder that allows you to build mobile apps, desktop apps, and also web apps. So it's what we call cross-platform. So as you can see here from their website, you can create beautiful UI or designs. You can generate clean code behind those designs. You can launch your app in the App Store. And if you even want to get a little nerdier, you can extend it with code, meaning that this is also a low-code platform. In terms of features, you can build out the visual elements from scratch with a drag and drop builder, where you basically grab components and you put them together. So you could just place, for example, a button on a page. It also has more than 80 widgets, which are basically pre-created modules. Then it has integrated logic and connections, meaning that you can actually use the API functionalities to tap into your database. So you can get information or data from any place on the web and basically bring it into your app, which adds power to it. And as you can see here, everything that you build is also responsive, meaning that it'll look as nice on an iPhone as it would on a desktop computer. It's incredibly customizable. And of course, that kind of comes with a downside. It's a little bit more complex to learn, but the upside is more complex functionalities. It also has features to create things like animations. You can have push notifications inside of your app. Now, Flutter Flow has been created in a way where you can collaborate with other people as well. You can grab shareable project links. You can give different project permissions for different individuals or members of your team. And there's also version control. Now, another feature is that you can export all of the code that you build. It's not that useful if you ask me, because anyway, if you want to customize things, you're going to want to stay within the builder anyway. But this is one of the few no-code platforms where you can actually access all of that code. So what kind of things can you build with Flutter Flow? This is an app called Tagalong. It allows you to be matched with a one-on-one coach who's a professional athlete, to have them as your trainer. As you can see, this app looks quite slick and it's nice, it's user-friendly. This is another app called Track Your Talent, which was actually built from one of our students at We Are No Code. It's an app for actors to be able to book more auditions by staying on top of and nurturing their industry relationships. Or this cool app called Nat Parks, which essentially allows people to view different national parks in the United States. As you can see, really beautiful designs. But let's take a quick look inside the editor itself. Okay, so I'm inside the interface, and as you can see, when I create a new project, I'm actually going to start with a marketplace template that I found. It's going to ask me to select the theme, so I can select between the themes. Click next. Okay, so on the left-hand side here, we can see the elements, for example. So these elements are basically all of the things that we can add inside. So as you can see here, I can grab some text. I can just, add that anywhere I would like inside of this element. Boom, and there we have Hello World. And there are plenty of elements that you can select from here, so that's pretty straightforward. Underneath that, we can see essentially how all of these different elements are laid out, sort of the tree. So we can see that inside of this, we have several sub-elements, and we can see how they're nested into each other. After that, we can jump into the page selector. So here we can check out all the different pages that are inside of our project. This under here is going to be the storyboard. So this is where we see basically all of the different screens inside our app, how they connect to each other, and we can go into each one of these and build within each one. Underneath, we have the database right here. Now, the cool thing here is that Flutter Flow automatically integrates with Firebase. So here you'll be able to see your database, and you don't have to keep going back into Firebase. Underneath here, you're going to have the different data types. When you make more complex API calls or connect in external services, we're going to be using this little tab over here. This is where we have all of the different media assets. So if you import them, you can use them throughout the project. Here on the left-hand side, we have the custom code tab. Underneath that, we have the cloud functions. Then here's where we're going to be automating certain tests. And this one at the bottom here is the themes tab. So basically your entire build has a theme. You can come in here and change some of the elements of your theme, and those will change throughout the entire project. So if we wanted to change the primary color, we could easily do that here and it would reflect in the entire project. Now, if we go back into the elements here on the right-hand side, we have another tab, which is essentially for styling, right? So if we, for example, grab this image, we're going to be able to adapt different things about it. You can adapt the alignment, you can adapt the image itself, the width, the height. Now finally, I'm gonna quickly show you the export function for the code. If you go here, you can go to the developer menu and you can view the code. So if you're on any given page, you can basically check out, export all the code, which is just lying right here. So super practical. And that's pretty much it for the short tutorial inside of the interface. Okay, but what about pricing? So as you can see, they have this free plan that you can start with. You can start practicing, learning the platform. And it's only really when you want deeper functionalities that you jump into a $15 to $30 plan. Or if you want the pro plan, it goes all the way up to $70. Now, of course, if you want more than that and you're looking for a Teams plan, it's gonna be more expensive. But this is actually a very affordable no-code platform. So if you're an enterprise, definitely check out that tab as well. So what is the downside of Flutter Flow? Well, the first thing is that it is a little bit more complex to learn. So sure, you can build very complex functionalities, but on the downside of that, it takes a longer period of time to learn. So if you're just getting started in no-code, this might not be the first platform that you wanna get started with. So let's now jump into the next platform we're going to be talking about, which is called Draftbit. Now, Draftbit is actually based on the framework called React, and you can build powerful apps 10 times faster, as you see here on the website. You can build native mobile apps. You can also build responsive web apps, which are apps that live inside of a browser. And this is another tool that you can actually use to export the code as well. Now, this platform, as advertised here, allows you to design, to build, to test, and to publish all from the same place. So it's what we call an all-in-one builder. They also have a nice number of templates that you can go ahead and check out. But if that's not exactly what you're trying to build, I would stay away from templates, especially at the beginning. Now again, you can build here leveraging pre-created components. You can grab blocks, bits, or you can even add customized code. So Draftbit, again, is one of these low-code platforms. Then on the design front, you can create, as you can see here, themes, fonts and icons, save components. Then you're gonna be able to connect your designs or user interface with the actual workflows behind them. And you can access APIs directly, so you can connect it to outside sources of data or information and bring them into the app. And again, similarly to Flutter Flow, it's created for collaborations, so it's easy to do things like share your project, comment, etc., etc. So with this builder, you can build things like Montage, which essentially allows you to shop from your favorite TV shows, checking out all the items that people are wearing during those shows. You could build platforms like Vault here, which allows you to bet on sports, or you can build apps like City as a School, which is essentially a marketplace to be able to learn online. So let's quickly check out the app builder itself so you can see what it kind of looks like. Okay, so once we've logged in, we can create our first project here. I'm gonna work in a template so I can show you the interface. We're gonna choose a fast food app. Now, as soon as we jump into this builder, what we realize is that it's quite a bit different than the Flutter Flow app. It's a little bit more complicated. Basically, the different navigation tabs are here at the top instead of on the left-hand side. Another big difference is that to create components and to add components, you're gonna come inside the components here. You're going to click plus here. And as soon as you select to add a new component, it's gonna add it below. So I've added several text ones, and then as you can see, I could basically drag these and I can go ahead and nest them underneath anything I'd like. So here, there's the login button, as you can see, and underneath I have some text. You can name the element, so I can call this hello. And then you can actually adapt the text here by just double clicking on this. So it's a little bit different in the fact that we're not just grabbing elements and putting them on the canvas. What we're doing is that we're adding them, we're putting them in the right order. Then we're coming here on the right-hand panel and we are adapting things. So for example, if I wanted to adapt this image, I can go in here, I can check out these different style sheet. I can see the width, I can see all of these different factors. I can adapt any one of these. And basically this is how we are adapting elements on the canvas. Now, if we look at the main navigation up here, this is for all of the API connections. So if we want to integrate this with Airtable as a database, we could do so. Backend list, Superbase, etc. If you want to add custom code, this would be the place to do it. You can only do that inside of a paid plan. We're going to have the different screen variables. Over here, we're going to see the themes and styles. So if I click on this, again, kind of similar. There are specific elements to this entire project. If we change one of these elements, it will reflect throughout the entire project, which makes it really useful when we're actually building, because if not, you can easily just change the color of one button and then all of the other buttons are different. And last but not least, here you can see all of the different assets that we're going to use inside of this project as well. At the top, we both have a design, which is where we're going to be designing, or navigate, where we can actually go and check out functionally how this app works. So if we switch to this one, it's going to load, and then we're going to be able to test out the functionalities. So if I want to sign up, I can click on this button, and we're going to come into the sign up field. So this is how we test it functionally. This is how we adapt the designs. And last but not least, if you're looking to extract the code, this is where you're going to be able to get access to that code. So just by clicking on this, and since this is the pay feature and I'm in the free plan, I will not be able to show you this right now. So overall, a little more complex than Flutter Flow. I do like the interface of Flutter Flow a little bit better, but this is what the interface of Draftbit looks like. Okay, so now let's talk about the pricing. As you can see here, and like many other no-code tools, you can usually start learning for free. So you can start playing around in the builder and easily learn this. Now, here you have 5 screens per project, meaning that very quickly you're gonna have to upgrade to the basic plan. And then once you have more than one live project, you're gonna have to go to Pro, which is $59 a month. It's actually a nice price point compared to hiring programmers. And remember that with these platforms also comes the hosting cost, meaning that you're not actually paying for servers, you're paying for the subscription. By the way, if you're enjoying this video and you want me to continue creating videos, then please subscribe to the channel. It's literally the only thing I have that tells me, Christian, you're doing a good job, keep working. And if you're a person who has lots of ideas but has no idea how to get started because it requires tech, then check out a free course that we have below where we're gonna teach you how to launch your startup with no-code tools. And now let's get back to it. Okay, but Flutter Flow and Draftbit are both more complex platforms, as we can see. Now the downside is that if you're a beginner, you're gonna probably get quite lost and frustrated. And we see a lot of people that do a similar thing. They discover no code, they go to complex platforms like these, then they get discouraged because they play around and feel like this is just gonna take too long or it's not made for them, and then they give up. And if that's you, then don't worry, we got you. We have 2 more tools that I'd like to talk to you about right now. The first tool is called Adalo. Now Adalo is a mobile app builder, as you can see here, with no coding required. One of the big advantages of this platform is that it is a lot simpler than the 2 ones we've just talked about, and a lot of the design is already streamlined, so you don't have to worry if you are a terrible designer as well. So this is also an all-in-one builder, meaning that you can design your app, you can then build the app, you can then publish the app, and of course, once you've published, you can also grow this app all within the Adalo ecosystem. You can also, if you'd like, attach it to an external database and bring in the information, so you could use Google Sheets or Airtable, for example. Now this builder allows you to have a responsive design in your app. It also allows you to integrate with in-app purchases, so you can connect it to platforms like Stripe, including many other connections that you can make that are already integrations that exist with the platform. If anything doesn't connect with it, you can actually use Zapier or Make to be able to connect directly with Adalo, which extends its functionalities significantly. And yes, you can even have functionalities like geolocation, custom actions, and many others. They in fact have a marketplace where people build components and then you can use components that other people have already built. They also have a number of templates that if you find exactly what you're trying to build, you could just use one of those. And there are currently more than 2 million people using Adalo. In Adalo, you can build things like community apps, event apps, customer support apps, productivity tools, CRMs. So even though it's a simpler builder, you can actually build some very interesting things with this tool. And yes, all of them can be deployed to the iOS or Android store. So this is Chara, for example. It's an app for holistic health that was built in Adalo. This is Joy Blossom. It's a meditation app. These apps look relatively similar. They're very functional. They're way easier to create. You only have to really select the basic color palettes you're looking for. Then you create the different screens, you create the logic behind the screens, and they look nice. Now the downside of Adalo is because it's a simpler app builder to learn, it's also a little bit simpler in terms of the kind of functionalities that you can create. So as soon as we're inside Adalo, we can very quickly notice that Adalo is quite different from some of the other builders that we've looked at up until now. It's a lot simpler. And as you can see the different screens, you can add screens, and you're actually working within these screens, creating functionality on these screens. And so it's a lot easier to kind of build out inside Adalo. Here in the top left, we can add elements easily. You can choose from components, you can add additional screens. So if we go inside of screens, as you can see here, we're gonna be able to start with a blank one, or we can choose to go with pre-existing ones. So there's lots of different ones. However, you can also just start from a blank canvas because it's so easy to build. So if I was to just build an additional one, you just have to call it something. And then I'm gonna come into the components here. I'm going to add an image, for example, drag, boom, drop, for example. Let's grab a button. Let's put it right here, boom. And as you can see, it's really quite easy to do that. On the left-hand side, you're also going to be able to adapt the main things around that button. So as you can see, there's a little bit less of flexibility when it comes to the customization, but honestly, it's really good enough, and it just works well, especially when you are a beginner and you just want it to look clean and nice. So underneath the Elements tab, we have the Branding tab. You can see the primary color, the secondary color of the app. You can also check out the different fonts that you have. So you can find the one for the headings, you can find the one for the body. And when you adapt them here, they're going to adapt throughout your entire project, which is really cool. Under here, we can check out the screens themselves. So you're going to be able to see, okay, we have this one I called hello. There's home. Obviously, you wouldn't call yours hello. Home, login, sign up, and you can add screens here. So if I could add it the other way, a blank screen or a pre-created screen, I could add them from that other view. And if we go under screens here, we then see the database, which is all the information. Again, Adalo can be connected to different databases, and then we can import that information here. Under here, there are some general settings, as you can see here, that you can easily change. So if you basically have your app icon, you can just upload it right here. Mix panel is for tracking. So if you have a token, you can just put it right here. And there's lots of other settings under here that I won't go too far into. API keys, this is when you're trying to connect to an external API, and you will be able to do so inside of this tab. And once you build out your app and you have functionalities, you can go ahead and publish it. Underneath here, you will also be able to see the analytics. So there you go, how many users, daily active users, etc. And once you've built it out and you want to actually visualize your app, you could just click on View App, and there is both the staging preview, which is what you're building inside of. If I click on this, you can select from different phone sizes. So if I wanted to look at the preview in a different size, I could just check it out here. And I'm gonna exit before this thing loads, but you got the picture. And we jump here to the pricing. As you can see, again, there is a free plan. Once you jump onto the starter plan, it's $36 a month. That's billed annually. If we were to switch that over, it would be $45 a month. Very reasonable still for building out a first app. The professional plan is at $52. Usually most people are on the starter or professional plan. So that should be plenty for you if you're just trying to build it out an app. Now, if you're a person who already has a database and you're trying to transform that into an app, specifically for internal tools, there is this amazing tool that is called Glide. It is also very, very user-friendly, and it allows you to build business software. So it's very focused on internal tools. And if you're someone who's always lost in your Excel spreadsheet, well, it's time to upgrade. You can bring that into Google Sheets and you can use it as a database for Glide. Now, Glide also connects to other databases. So if you already have a database inside of something like Airtable, it would be very easy to connect. This is a tool that's great for inventory management. It's great for tracking apps. It's great for portals, and they have a great track record releasing great features and also being super easy to build with. You can either use their database or you can connect to Sheets, you can connect to Excel, you can connect to Airtable, and you can connect to many other databases too. Once you build something, you can deploy it on all devices. So this is something that can look like a mobile app, or it could be a web app. Now, one little thing to pay attention to with Glide is that you cannot actually publish the iOS and Android store. And honestly, most use cases don't really need to be published in the iOS or Android store. Despite being very easy to use, you can also build out some pretty powerful workflows inside of it. So you could integrate with third-party apps. You can create multi-step actions based on, okay, if I click on this, I want it to update the database, then I'm gonna want it to send me to this page. They also have plenty of templates inside of Glide. So for the most part, you could just find a template that suits your needs. Also, like many of these other app builders that we're talking about, have integrated some AI features as well that allow you to build things quicker. Now let's quickly jump into the interface so you can see what it looks like. Excellent, so this is Glide's interface. As you can see, it's super, super clean. On the left-hand side, we have the navigation. In here, we can choose the different screens. I can also add different screens. So for example, if I wanted to add a screen for chat, I could just pretty much import that and create that. You can also choose to, for example, just start with a custom screen, which means that you really just start from scratch. So if I wanted to add a component, for example, I can just come here, add a component under things. It could be, for example, an image. And then here I would be able to, drag and drop this wherever I really wanted to. This would be at the bottom. So maybe I want it to be right above the actual collection, so we can see this image at the very, very top. When I click on any one of these elements, I can actually adapt it here on the right-hand side. So I could make it, you know, a different type of element. And inside this component, I could change any of these. So if, for example, I wanted these data options to be slightly different, I could add an option, etc., etc. And then what you do is that you essentially connect data behind them. So if you go to the data tab here at the top, you have all the data. You can import data straight to here. You can also connect to an external data source if you'd like. On the left-hand side, you can see all the types of data. Then if we go up here into layout, you can basically see the layout of the different elements that we are on, and we can adapt those. Actions are actually to kind of supercharge your app. So first of all, you can connect these. As you can see, I'm going to add a new action. So here you can select what you want it to do. If this specific user interaction happens, I want it to do that. And you can basically add conditions. So for example here, if name is not empty, then show a specific notification. And here I can put the message, etc., etc. So that's what actions really are. And if we go back into actions, we can actually see that you can start with an existing one. So there are already a bunch of things that you can do here. So if we come back here to the menu, this is a very easy navigation. You can actually check out the navigation within this, and then you can basically go ahead and come to the settings over here. You could adapt your settings like the icon. You could also do things like the name of the app. You can also all sorts of appearances. So if you'd like to change the appearance of the overall app, you could do that here. And then once you're pretty much ready, you can go ahead and publish your app. So if I click on publish here, and then I actually copy app link and I bring it into another browser, I can check out the app. I can search for a different thing if I wanted to. I can click on these and it's going to open up the individual pages. And so that's pretty much the short tutorial for what it looks like to work inside of Glide. And finally, I'd like to talk about the pricing here. So let's jump right in. You of course have a free plan where you can build simple things and use Glide's actual database. If you're trying to connect to an outside database, for example, or you want deeper integrations, then you're gonna have to go to the Maker plan, which is $49 a month. And then we jump into the Team plan, which is $99 a month. Now, Glide is one of these platforms that it's like so easy to learn that it really makes it worth the bang for the buck kind of thing. So if you're able to build the use case you're looking for with Glide, I would highly recommend this, especially for beginners. Okay, but what if you're a designer? Or maybe you have some more advanced skills, and maybe you just use Figma to already create designs. Well then, this next tool is gonna be perfect for you. It's called Bravo Studio, and it literally is so proud to be able to go from Figma to publishable mobile app in a flash. So this is a platform that's been gaining a lot of popularity as well, especially among designers. It has more than 100,000 users, and it allows you to basically design inside of Figma, then push those designs into Bravo Studios. Then you can attach the database, which is going to be your backend, and you can build out user interfaces, which are what the MVP looks like. You push all of those then inside of the iOS or Android store. So with this platform, you have a lot of design flexibility. You also have native features for lifelike prototypes, and it actually speeds up the process of iteration. They have different components that you can already use, which speeds up the process of building dramatically. Actions, which allows you to bring functionality. You can make different integrations like payments, have push notifications. With Bravo Studio, you can build things like e-commerce apps, productivity apps, event management apps. You can see a huge number of the use cases here. Here's an app called Cardboard Nerd made by Jesse that's also quite slick. And this is an app called Manila. Okay, so let's quickly jump inside the editor so I can show you around, and then we're gonna jump to the pricing. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice when you jump into Bravo Studio is that it is completely different from some of these other builders. In fact, you're actually going to be building inside of Figma first, which is a design tool, and then you're going to be pushing all the screens you've designed and creating all the logic and creating all of the functionalities behind your designs inside of Bravo Studio itself. So there is a plugin for Figma that you should be downloading because it's already going to use some UI presets, which is going to make it easier to then bring it inside of your Bravo Studio project. But if you start a new project over here, it's going to basically say, hey, import your app, right? Now, for the sake of this, I'm actually going to be using one of the projects that already exists. It's a fitness app. Now, One of the big things we realize is how beautiful the designs are because they come straight from Figma. So a lot of the apps that are created with Bravo Studio are just really, really good looking. But of course you need to have some more design skills to be able to manage this kind of a platform. So on the left-hand side here, I have all of the different screens here. I have the sign up, I have the intro screen. As you can see, it looks very nice. The home screen, which is when you actually log into the app. And what you start by doing is really adding the data that you have. For example, you might have it in a backend or a database like Xano. You're going to start off by connecting that so that we can feed the information or the data to the app that it needs. Then we're going to create some integrations, as you can see here. So notifications, payments, all of these other aspects of an app we're going to be able to create here. And then finally, we're going to be able to publish. We're going to be able to see the analytics. So it's really a platform that works very differently than some of the other ones. So if I'm in a specific screen like this, I can see that these individual elements over here, I can also click on them here, and we can see basically how they're connected. So here you're going to be able to populate this, for example, with the actual data, category ID, and the actual ID of this little card. So if we had several, you would see many different cards here. And then if someone clicks on this, it's going to potentially have an action. And so that's us creating the logic behind these designs. Now, if you want to preview the app, for example, you can go here to the top right, click on preview. You can actually scan this QR code and you'll be able to preview it. You can also just preview. If you're looking to troubleshoot your app, you can do it here. So you can basically figure out where there might be some bugs inside your app and already debug it before you actually launch. And as I mentioned earlier, but went quickly over, here you can go into publish. You can basically choose how you would like to publish it and where you would like that to be published. And now in terms of pricing, as you can see here, the starter plan, again, is free. Teams plan is $44 when you want more advanced collaboration within the teams. And then it only jumps to $54, which is also very reasonable if you ask me. Bravo Studio, I would say, is a medium to learn platform. And at the end of this video, I'm actually going to be giving you a couple of criteria you should be considering when you're choosing which one of these builders to use. So let's first jump into this no-code builder called Thunkable. So this is Thunkable. You can build custom mobile apps, no coding required. I'm not going to go through too many of the features here, but essentially it's quite similar. You can use pre-created components. You can essentially launch any one of your apps in the iOS or Android store. You can build apps for education, IoT, product teams, pre-sales agencies. You're building with drag and drop components, which makes it quicker. You can design your way, essentially allowing you a little bit more flexibility with the design functionalities. Now, Thunkable has some deeper functionalities than in some of the easier tools we've talked about, less than some of the more complex ones we've talked about today. They have plenty of integrations as well with third parties, and you can publish directly, making it a lot easier to get your app on the App Store. So now let's quickly jump into the editor to see what that looks like. Okay, so when we jump into this interface, it's very simple to use. We could basically come here on the top left. We're gonna see the designer. You have components, and this is the component tree above. Underneath, there's the different elements that I can add. So add components here. I could actually just grab, for example, go a bit further down, an animation. I could grab that, put it here. I could go to Lottie files and find a cool animation to put here. Then what I could do is I could add, for example, a text input. So grab someone's email address, for example, make this a little bit smaller over here because maybe I want to add a sign up button. Then I can do something like grab a button. I can put that here and I could change things about this button. So that's what we do here on the right hand side. As you can see, it's a very easy interface here. So I can just add things very quickly. If I want to add a different screen, the way I'm going to do that is here at the top. So I could just create a new screen, and each screen, again, I could just go through the same process. Then we're going to use these designs to then create the logic behind the designs. For example, as soon as I connect a database, that's going to be here on the left-hand side. So once again, you can connect to a number of different databases here. If I add a data source, it's going to ask me to create a new one. And then I can select, I can actually do this within Thunkable and create my own database in Thunkable. I can also attach it to a Google Sheets, for example, or an Airtable. Over here are all the assets within this project. So basically you can import Figma files. You can also just have plenty of different media assets here, like pictures, videos, etc. Now, once I'm ready to actually check out what this looks like, I can check it out in a web preview or on a mobile app preview. Once I'm looking to publish the app, I'm going to be able to do it here on the right hand side. And as you can see, this is really a very simple builder. I think it's very easy to use, and I think it's accessible for most people, specifically if you're kind of a beginner or intermediate in no code. In the block section over here, we can click on this, and this is where we start to actually go from creating the UI components that we're creating in the design tab and start adding certain additional things. So this is where we're going to create the logic behind our designs. You also see below that you have some app features that you can check out. So for example, if we are doing logic, it's like, if this, then that kind of logic. There's and, or, and then you can add these elements. So if, for example, and then you can, if something specific happens, you can navigate to screen 1. So this is if a button is clicked, for example, navigate to screen 1. And so this might be a little bit complicated for people to learn at first, but as soon as you get the hang of it, it's relatively simple. And that's pretty much it. And in terms of pricing, Thunkable is actually a little bit cheaper than some of the other platforms. Of course, it's free to get started. Then for 20 projects, $13 a month, which is quite a bit cheaper than other products we've talked about today. And their most popular one, which is the Pro account, is for $38 a month. Now, if you go past that, it actually is quite big of a jump. You'll go straight to 160 or even 500 plus per month. But for the most part, most people stay within the $38 a month plan. Now, if you feel overwhelmed and you don't know which one of these platforms to use, let me help you out a bit. There are 3 criteria that will help you decide. The first one is your level. If you are completely non-technical and it's the first time you're going to be jumping into a no-code tool, then I would highly recommend that you stick to platforms that are slightly simpler. Why? Because you will basically be able to learn the fundamentals, build the first version, and you won't get discouraged along the way. You'd be surprised how many beginners just choose complex platforms and then they feel discouraged and quit. So if you're a total beginner, check out Glide, and then you can check out others like Thunkable or Draftbit. If you're a designer, you could choose Bravo Studio. If you're intermediate, you could use Thunkable. And if you want to jump straight into the complex stuff, then I'd recommend for you to jump inside of Flutter Flow. Now, the second criteria is how far along are you in the process of building out this app? If you're building a new startup and you're trying to test the market with it, I would highly recommend using a simpler tool just because you'll get it out quicker. Now, if you have 200 users, like employees waiting to use this app already, then you simply have to figure out which one is going to be best for your use case. But at that point, it will make more sense for you to invest more time in learning the platform and potentially investing more money into building it. And the third criteria is really what you're trying to build. If it already needs to be right out of the gate, incredibly complex, very customizable, incredibly scalable, then you might want to go for some of the more complex platforms like Flutter Flow. However, if you're building something that's relatively simple, then I would stick to the simpler tools. And in building any of this stuff, remember that people don't care about the technology. They care about what the technology does for them. So for example, the only thing Airbnb users care about is booking a home. The only thing Uber users care about is having a car come on time. And the only thing that Tinder users are looking for is a date. So figure out what it is your customer really wants as an outcome and find the simplest way to be able to deliver that outcome with minimal tech. And if you've been watching this video and you're now super excited about no code, but you don't have an idea to build, then check out this video because I'm going to be giving you 5 startup ideas that you can launch with no code. So I guess I'll just wait here now and enjoy my time as you click on this next video. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next video. Let's go.